Hello everyone and welcome back to another ProGuides Wild Rift video. Today we're going to be going over patch 1.1 release notes and keep you guys up to date on all the changes that will be hitting your favorite mobile game. This is the first really big patch that they have for the game, and they're also releasing a lot of champions for the game, which is something that we should expect to continue happening in the future. So without further ado, let's get this started. So first things first, we gotta talk about the new busted champions that will be hitting the Wild Rift this patch. Darius and Draven will be both available immediately, and Wukong will be available later on into the patch. Darius and Draven were both incredibly strong during the early access, and Darius in particular seems to be a pretty meta warping champion in the mobile game. His ultimate goes completely off cooldown if he executes somebody with it, instead of just remaining available for a few seconds. If you want to stay up to date on these 3 champions releases and more, as well as guides that we'll be releasing for each one, then be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notified when we release those videos. And trust me, these champions are going to be incredibly strong if they're still in the same state that they were in the early access. Now let's get into the balance changes to individual champions. Alistar's headbutt cooldown is being increased early on, but decreased at max rank, going from 13, 12, 11, and 10 seconds to now being 14, 12.5, 11, and 9.5 seconds. This is to weaken his early game playmaking, but also allow him to feel like he's just as effective, if not more effective when he begins to approach the mid game and maxes his ability second. Next, Gragas' ultimate is getting an adjustment. It's proven to be a tricky ability to land, and it's causing some players to find the champion a little bit clunky. To combat this, Riot has reduced the travel time of the exploding cast, so it arrives at the destination sooner, making the ability easier to land. They're cutting the frames and making the ability 150% faster, traveling to its destination in 4 frames now instead of 6. Janna is getting a substantial buff to her kit. She's receiving 6 more attack damage, going from 4680 to 5280. And the values of her Zephyr and Eye of Storm abilities are being buffed up as well. Zephyr's damage is being buffed by 10 at all ranks, and the AP scaling is going up by 0.1. Changing it from dealing 55, 115, 175, and 235 plus 50% AP plus 25% movement speed to now being 65, 125, 185, 245 plus 60% AP plus 25% movement speed. And then her Eye of the Storm is being buffed by 10 at all ranks, and then the cooldown is going down early and then ending at the same value at max rank. This is making the shield go down from 80, 130, 180, 230 health to 90, 140, 190, and 240 health. The cooldown is going down from 16, 14, 12, and 10 seconds to now being 13, 12, 11, and 10. This is a huge buff to Janna's early game and really beefs up her ability to poke people out of lane. Additional base damage, scaling, and especially being able to shield more frequently should make her laning that much better and bring her up a bit. It's hard to compete with these hard engaged support meta, and it's clear that Riot is aware of it and is trying to address that. Shyvana is getting a nerf to her Dragon's Form's Flame Breath. This ability has been pretty much the only ability in her kit that people care to use for the past 2 years, building her full AP and then launching tactical dragon vomit missiles from off the screen. The damage on the initial impact of the breath in Dragon Form is being nerfed from 75 plus level times 5 plus 30% AD plus 30% AP to being now 40 plus level times 5 plus 20% AD plus 30% AP. And then the lingering Scorched Earth damage is being reduced from 45 plus level times 5 plus 10% AD plus 20% AP to being 30 plus level times 4 plus 10% AD plus 20% AP. She is getting a massive hit to both those parts of the base damages of the ability and the scaling of those parts as well. This will hurt the current Shyvana builds, and hopefully in the future Riot tries to get her towards more being a melee bruiser with some compensation buffs, but they seem like they want to put a band-aid on that for now and ease player pain around her poke. Tryndamere is getting a minor adjustment to bring him back up after the nerfs to critical strike itemization. His Bloodlust is being buffed in its HP percentage AD from 0.2, 0.25, 0.3, and 0.35 to 0.25, 0.3, 0.35, and 0.4. And his ultimate's cooldown is being reduced at later ranks to give players more incentive to put points into this ability that is usually left for last. The cooldown on Undying Range is going down from 190 and 80 seconds to 185 and 70. Honestly, this won't really change much and won't really move the needle for Tryndamere, but when it comes to the buff to his Bloodlust, every little bit helps. And our last specific champion change is for Twisted Fate. He'll rotate through a pick a card deck faster, changing card color every 0.6 seconds instead of every 0.7 seconds. This means you'll cycle through a full deck in 1.8 seconds instead of 2.1 seconds, saving you a little bit of time if you miss a card and making it so you can react to your enemies faster if you don't draw the right card right away. Now for adjustments to multiple champions. Riot felt that mana hasn't been a gate for a lot of their champions to spam their abilities early on, so they're adjusting mana regeneration and mana cost for a lot of champions to make them actually think about their mana at times, and they've also gone and adjusted some champions' ultimate mana costs. Champions getting nerfs to their base mana regeneration are Ahri, Alistar, Amumu, Aurelion Sol, Blitzcrank, Camille, Evelynn, Ezreal, Fiora, Fizz, Graves, Jax, Jhin, Jinx, Kai'Sa, Lux, Master Yi, Nami, Nasus, Soraka, Twisted Fate, Vayne, Vi, and Xin Zhao. Wow, what a mouthful. In addition, Amumu is also getting an adjustment to the mana cost of his Despair, raising the cost by an additional 1 mana per rank, going from 10 at all ranks to 10, 11, 12, and 13. His ultimate cost is being changed and increasing by an additional 50 per rank to being 100 at all ranks, making it go from 100, 150, 200 mana to just being 100 across the board. Ashe is also receiving above turn mana regeneration per level, increasing it from 0.5 to 0.7. Twisted Fate's ultimate is going down by 50 in mana cost, making it 100 at all ranks. And Vayne's ultimate is having its cost increased by 20 at all ranks, bringing it to 100 at all ranks. And the last adjustment to mana cost is for Vi's ultimate, having to go from 100, 125, 150 to just being 100 at all ranks. It seems like Riot really wants champions to have to care about their mana early on in the laning phase, and they also reduce a lot of the champions' mana regeneration, so this might mean that they don't want them to worry about mana later on in the game by adjusting the cost of their ultimates. Now, let's get onto those item changes. All Grievous Wounds items are having their duration changed to 3 seconds. This is a buff to Bramble Vest but nerfed to Mortal Reminder. Overall, this is a good change to have consistency across the board and should just make these items stronger on tanks. Mercury Treads are having their tenacity increase from 30% to 35% to help against crowd control, and Ninja Tabby is having its armor increase from 10 to 15 and the auto attack damage reduction from 10 to 15%. These two boot changes make these items better at combating specific situations in which you buy them. Speaking of boots, the Gargoyle's enchant is being buffed by 40 to 100% to 65 to 130%. This will make it significantly more powerful on tanks when used in teamfights, and I expect this to become the enchant of choice for divers. And the final change to items is Fimbulwinter. This item has been a pain in the butt to deal with once it's finished and charged up. It leads to tanks constantly shielding themselves and being impossible to kill, so the cooldown on the shield is being increased from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. Before, a tank would go all in, get the shield, and by the time he actually broke the shield, they would almost have it back up. This will now give players a much larger window to exploit and potentially take down those big beef balls. I expect Fimbulwinter to almost disappear completely after this change. Having a 50% increase in cooldown is massive and pretty much puts this item in the graveyard for now. Now let's finish up patch 1.1 with the changes to the game systems. Just like the PC version of League of Legends, Wild Rift will now have ability haste instead of cooldown reduction. Riot finds this easier to balance, even though it is harder to understand. The formula to CDR to ability haste is CDR equals 1 minus in parentheses 1 over 1 plus ability haste and parentheses. In short, each point of cooldown reduction reduces the cooldown of the ability by 1%, but each point of ability haste makes you cast your abilities 1% more frequently. This means that having 100% cooldown reduction would make your ability just have no cooldown anymore, but the 100 ability haste would make it so you could cast the ability twice as frequently, or half the cooldown. Now moving away from the shop and onto the map, the dragons are now being changed. Riot has stated that they wanted to move towards the Dragon Soul system for Wild Rift and are slowly working towards these changes. The base burn damage you gain is being changed from 50 true damage per second over 3 seconds to 45 true damage per second over 3 seconds, 150 total down to 135 now. And the burn damage now scales from 45, 60, 75, and 90 per dragons that you have taken, including Elder Dragon, to 135, 180, 225, and 270. And the final change to the dragon is the Elder Dragon elemental effect is now increased by 50% per dragon taken, making it go from 150% to now being 150, 200, 250, 300 per 1, 2, 3, and 4 dragons that your team has taken. Currently, your team isn't rewarded too much if you take Elder Dragon after holding control of the dragons all game, and if the enemy team gets the Elder Dragon, it's the same power as if you gotten it. This makes it that if you have been getting all the dragons and then get Elder Dragons on top of it, you'll be extremely powerful and you should win the game just because of all the controls that you've had over the objectives. The small system change to Smite is also being rolled out. Smite has been letting junglers breeze through the jungle and hit level 5 before the solo laners. So they're now changing Smite's initial second charge to be delayed by 10 seconds, making it so junglers will be a little bit slower through their first clear and giving laners some much needed breathing room. And for our final change on patch 1.1, Fleet Footwork is having its healing against minions reduced for ranged champions to 30%. Fleet Footwork was allowing players to auto-attack minions and not give a damn about their lane opponent. At its core, Wild Rift is a PvP game, so having to interact with other players and having to care about the interactions is the essence of the game. So every time something like this happens, Riot is quick to nerf it. It's just kind of funny how this happened in the PC version with Fleet Footwork, and they needed to nerf that for the exact same reason. And then they went and released Fleet Footwork in Wild Rift in the state that they needed to nerf it previously. Like, oh well, they fixed it though. And that's going to be it for our patch 1.1 rundown for Wild Rift. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with all our Wild Rift content. Like I said earlier, we'll be releasing videos on the new and upcoming champions that are going to be hitting the Rift next patch, so you don't want to miss those. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.